Hi, everyone. So excited to be here. Kelly should be joining us, having a little technical difficulty. And love to hear your comments. Chat's open. The word of the day is support. Love to hear what your thoughts are. And if you're in the audience to start to show off, if you can, why don't you introduce yourself and share at least kind of where you're coming from? Love to recognize you. Uh, and look forward to a powerful show. Hopefully, we'll get some comments, and Kelly will find her way on. It's a little bit of a technical issue, like I mentioned, and with that said, I'll start the show off with what my thoughts on support are, and hopefully that'll encourage other comments and thoughts from the audience. With that said, support is a key element to everything we do, especially as we collaborate, because it requires a great deal of support to continue to partner with everyone. And look who's here. Hi, Kelly. Thanks so much for making it. I know it wasn't easy. And, with Restream and LinkedIn, we always have glitches. So it's almost a challenge or a test of one's ability to redesign or realign the show so that everybody could make it. So I missed you last week, and I always miss you when you're not here.
Oh,
It's so easy to be missable in a good way. And what's new and exciting, Kelly?
well, talk about the word of the day is support, and it took support just to get here this morning. But it happened. The fourth link was the charm, so that worked. But what's new? I'm sitting in beautiful San Diego, so I apologize in advance if Maple, who is my niece golden retriever, she's very demanding and likes attention. So she she may either jump in the pool behind me or come up and want to participate in what's happening here. So yeah, I'm enjoying some cool weather. It's a little misty out this morning, but fantastic. A change of scenery, I think, is always good for so many reasons. For creativity, um, and just it's gone by way too fast though. I've been here for 8 days, and it feels like I
Wow,
just got here.
nice change of weather, huh?
Oh, I mean, I'll take this 72 and a little chilly right now over, 100 and 104 in Phoenix probably right now. So, yeah, definitely a nice change. Not a bad place to have to visit this time of year.
Well, wherever you are is always a nice place, and I'm dog friendly, and the show is dog friendly. So
That's
happy
right.
to introduce any canines in the area. And support is our key word today. And I know what we've done together and also gone on and do independently is all based on the support that we bring, as well as how people invest in us with their support. Carrie's a great example of someone who kind of shows up all the time and supports the show. I tried to squeeze past the raspberry bush, but I got jammed. Uh, and, it's always nice to have a little bit of levity. Also says that would be a rough video with some dogs. Nice play on words. Uh, I know Carrie's looking for work. I know that Harvey reached out the other day and said that he would continue to support
Love it.
Carrie on Sundays with his employment opportunity post
So
that he
good.
does unselfishly and generously to so many others. And, when I think of support, I always think of Kelly because reflecting back on where we started to where we are, and more importantly, where we could be going because of all of the opportunities that keep
Mhm.
unfolding in front of us and with us. And I think the key to support is keeping that support and building on it and really taking advantage of the opportunity for synergies and having people who have greater skills or knowledge to combine with people who complement themselves with other skills, and all of a sudden 1 + 1 = 3. So it's been so much fun, and then what's beautiful about it, it blossoms, and one
Mhm.
circle of influence continues to change for the better. And then also, it's a lot, it has the ability to spread to everybody else's center of influence. So it's a good contagion if one was to have one. And
Mhm.
I know Kelly has been outstanding with Christy Howard on Awesome Journey, is working with wheelchairs for veterans, uh,
Warriors.
warriors. I'm sorry. I was almost going to correct it, but you see, that's the beauty of support. Someone's
That's
there to
right.
help you sometimes when you're not even aware. So, Kelly, tell us a little bit about your awesome journey and how support has played a big role in it.
Yeah, I mean, so great because now to put it all the way back around to live streaming, I even talked with an old colleague yesterday that I haven't spoken to in a while and told him about starting the awesome journey and doing live streaming and podcasting. and and he was like, "Oh, like how many have you done?" And I was like, "I don't know, but well over 250." And he was like, "Oh my gosh." And I said, I know, but it's turned into something I never could have imagined. And it is all about support because you meet people, then opportunities come up, or there's connections that people make. Um, and it's very difficult to have this conversation, of course, and not talk about wheelchairs for warriors because it is all about supporting our veterans and first responders that are injured in the line of duty. And I think just all of us in our own communities, to take back to this community and talking about live streaming is supporting one another in our wins and our fails. Because failure, um, which I really dislike the word because it has such negative
Mhm.
connotation, but it's part of the process. And when you embrace it as such, I think it has such a different feeling. And when you're surrounded by people who support you, cheerlead for you, and are there for you, and that you're aware enough to allow the support to exist for you. Because we don't know everything, and knowing that like, hey, I need to reach out to Harvey for some assist with franchising. I've got franchise questions, or I just met this incredible person that's in franchising. I need to do an introduction. Um, we do that all the time, and that is I think what you're supposed to do just as humans, right, is support your community, support one another. If I know somebody that can help you better yourself, better your career, do something better for your family, whatever it is for your community, um, I'm happy to connect you. That's what networking is. And I think networking should be looked at beyond just the LinkedIn platform. It's just this crazy thing called life, which is an awesome journey for all of us, which it's not always the best. It's not always rainbows and butterflies, and sometimes it's downright crappy. But when you've got support of your close network of friends, family, and a network, it kind of makes the parts that suck not suck so much.
Well, that sure covers support in so many different ways. And I agree with you so much because it's always easier looking back than looking forward. And
Oh
you always know where you maybe are and where you come from, but you don't always know where you're going to go, and what you have is where it's going to take you. So you're always thinking about naturally what you know and not what you don't know. But as you open yourself up to support, you also open yourself up for knowledge sharing. And once you get more information and the clues start to come together, you start saying, hey, there is a different road, there is a bigger road. The other thing is it really has a lot to do with mentoring.
yeah.
And a lot of people are kind of focused on having their hand up, waiting for someone to pull them up, when they
Yeah.
really should have their hand up one way and the other hand down, pulling somebody else up while they're waiting to be pulled up. And that's how you complete the circle. The other thing is you start getting generational, where the person you meet creates a show with you or creates a show on their own. And it's almost like having grandkids, right? Who then have more grandkids by having more shows. And it's starting to happen because Harvey Tuck, who's in our cohort group that meets every other Thursday, just been a fabulous model of success, hard work, and really cooperation and support. And he just has a genuine generosity of soul and spirit that it just
Mhm.
comes natural. It doesn't have to be digging deep. It's already overflowing. And he just launched just 8 months ago or so the franchise show. About 2 months ago, he followed up with the franchise brand story show. He's
Mm-hmm.
doing great things with QR codes. He's been phenomenal with inviting up to 1,000 people a week. And the beauty of it is everybody takes their own road, and it's personalized and somewhat branded. But as everybody's journeying on, they come back to the tribe and say, well, here's how I did it. Here's what I did. And everybody's
Yeah.
doing different things in different ways. Today was the first day of Karl's second show. So Karl launched his funding show about 3-4 months ago, and really leveraged it for visibility, brand recognition. And today he launched his show, which is all about the community development program he's working with 5 other board members. And he's having a show with the 5 showing up every week, everybody being able to tell their story and their part. And that was a whole new twist. And it was somewhat based on Harvey, because Harvey focused on franchising as a niche, and really everything he does attracts people who are focused on franchising, which by niching, you get to pre-filter in advance. Some people are expansive and it's general. Everybody comes, but not everybody's really working towards that goal, as opposed to the people are relevant. And what I found is less is more if the less is exactly who you want to be talking to. So I know kind of gone off, but the support continues to grow in different magical ways that one could never anticipate. And I think it comes down to trust. You can't support somebody if they don't trust you, and your support won't have much value if it's not trusted. So I know we've learned so much over the 18, 19 months of trust and different personalities and characters, and you start lining things up and you start seeing things repeat itself in a good and maybe not so good way. So what's your thoughts on the ability to evolve and grow with the leverage of support?
Well, I think I've said this a lot here for sure about community, because when we feel safety, secure, we're more apt to take risks that we wouldn't normally, and specifically in business and in personal life, because we feel supported. When we're focused on fear, we tend to be back in the corner and not wanting to do anything. But you tend to feel more fearless when you feel support and security, and will try things that will surprise you and amaze you and bring things to you that you would never have imagined. Starting a live stream, having zero clue of why, where, how, any of the things, but just knowing like it's just something I'm supposed to be checking out. I don't know why. And how you and I used to talk about what brings these people from all over the world here, and it all being because everybody was looking for safety, support, and love, because that is a international or global thing for people. And so that part I think is so beautiful. And the evolution of everybody over time, how many people came on here and have had spin-offs, or your grandchildren. There are so many shows that came out of this, because once you see like it's not that scary, it's just having a conversation. And I feel confident enough to go try it myself, because with the Awesome Journey, Christy and I literally just put a date on the calendar. I think I made a logo the night before. Like, it was honestly, but I knew I had done enough here with you that even if I fell flat on my face, it was going to be okay. And I think that's the beauty with everyone, and how we all supported as everyone did their first show, because we know what it feels like to have all those nerves of just hearing the word live, of having to deal with the back end. What if nobody shows up? What if I make a mistake? What if my guest doesn't show up? Like, all the things that we think about. But when you know that you've got people there to support you, it makes you feel better. I mean, there was a show you had a guest, and I will never forget, because I was traveling and I was like, hey, can you get Clinton Hatton to be on? and your technology went out and you could not get logged in. So here we had a guest who was like, "Hey, I guess I'm still live and I still have an audience." And we were all messaging him behind the scenes and of course in the comments, and he just continued to go on, and it ended up you were able to get back on eventually. Um, but I think there was something so beautiful to watch what happens in support, because we're all human and we all make mistakes. And it's not even really a mistake. It was just part of how that day was supposed to go for whatever reason. He shared a message that would never have been shared if that didn't happen. And it's, I don't know, it's all about mindset, right? And I think the support for all of those things is what propels all of us, forward, up, however you want to look at it, and reminding each other, hey, sometimes the pullbacks, like a slingshot, you got to be pulled back in order to launch forward. You're not falling backwards, you're falling right into the place you're supposed to be. So I think those are my thoughts right now. What do you think?
I mean, it is amazing the things you bring up that bring back so many memories. And one thing I'll say about working with Kelly, especially, is I can't remember a bad time. I mean, we could have had, 100 plus shows, and everyone I came away with feeling better and being better for it. And you find out that the support really has to come from yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you support yourself, and that means being confident in your ability to affect things in a quality way, and really the intangibles that no one's going to teach you, which is generosity, which I see some of the most famous or successful people, if you were to say that, are typically the most generous when they come on the show. They're always trying to build somebody else up because they've made it, and they don't care if they sell another book or two. And usually they're busy enough that they don't have to reach for business. But what they've learned is how you show up is who you become in people's minds. Nobody likes a braggart. Nobody likes somebody who keeps patting themselves on the back, because it shows lack of confidence, insecurity, and being a bully or pushing your way through, versus being kind and generous, because that's where trust comes from. People are looking at you and saying, can I trust this person? And until I know that, it doesn't really matter who they are or what they do, because we'll probably never do anything together. And the question of what's in it for me, which is always going to be a question that the audience is going to have. And I know one thing, and Harvey's made it clear when he started his show, he wanted to follow the same format of grace and respect and being polite to his guests. And, he makes you comfortable. So in a sense, it's like someone inviting you into their home, sitting you down around a coffee table, having a couple treats for you, and just being real. And, I find that if you start out at the level you're at, there is success right there. If it's just me and Kelly and nobody shows up, nobody hears it, it was a quality conversation because there was an ability to share together and share in front of people together. There's people who aren't honest with themselves, and then are troubled by being honest with someone else. And then if you put the public involved, and I know it is scary because you think everybody's looking at everything you're doing, but they're not. They're actually admiring you for doing something they couldn't or wouldn't do. And by reaching out a hand as far as being open to guests, I know Beverly is always making a point every show she's on. She offers 15 minutes of free consultation to anybody. And it's not to get more business, but it's to demonstrate who she is as a person. And, I find that a lot of people are so focused on what they do, and other people in the audience are typically focused on who are you, right?
Yeah.
You don't just come into someone's house and say, I do this. It's like, well, let me introduce myself. I'm this, and here's where I live, and here's what I'm into. And you never know what you don't know. I had a guest that keeps coming back, Fort Sykes. Great guy, unbelievable story. And Kelly can attest to the guests she had, that you got to pinch yourself to say,
Huh.
Is this for real?
Yeah.
I you live and I live a typical life, let's say, and some people are putting themselves in the harm's way, have put themselves in situations that I couldn't even imagine, and they're sharing it openly, proudly.
Mhm.
And you say to yourself, I'm glad just to be along for the ride,
Yeah.
even though you may be the conductor. You're happy to take a seat in a passenger side and let them drive the car. And
Yeah.
you're right about Clint. It amazed me because back then I was so much into doing it every day, and I was so much into everything working. And when I lost it, it never happened before, and I thought, well, the show's gone. And when I signed back on, Clint had kept the show going. And I said, well, that's amazing. And it really showed you that it's a tandem event where, it's like two people riding a bicycle together and helping each other. And I think that's what really gets to the heart of it is feeling you're not alone, feeling that people really do look forward to participating and seeing you, and that makes you proud. But also to the point of saying, where can this go beyond me? Because I know a lot of people's concerns are about themselves. Maybe they've been on their own for too long, or maybe they had some bad situations where they lost the ability to trust in people for a while. But if it gets reignited and renewed, you're so much better for it because
Yeah.
you have a contrast and a comparison from I was here, now I'm here, and what happened in the middle was I was taking advantage of this opportunity. So, I know it's so gratifying for what you and Christy have done and what you've kind of done on your own to see it kind of carry you where it's not a push situation, it becomes more of a pull situation, and
Yeah.
you feel comfortable. And even today we had some issues with that, issues the other day with something, but what I learned is it's gonna work out.
Yeah.
There's enough mistakes I've made that by the mistakes I learned, when it happens again, here's what you pivot to. So Kelly, I mean, you're the epitome.
So many good points you just made. Yeah, I think there's so many things that are so rich in here and with support. And I think another great component to talk about is I think all of us who either came through this show or watching people on other shows, is one, of course, supporting each other, but also knowing that we're not in competition with one another. And because that's such a big thing, is people be like, oh well, I want to do a show like that. There was actually a point, and I know I told you this already, but that someone pitched me my own show, and I was just like, are you kidding me right now? Like, that's what I do. um, as a way, because they wanted to be part of it. And it was just sort of like, well, you can try to go do your own, but it still won't be me and Christy. No matter what you do, you will never, and then there's a big enough audience. There's 1 billion people on this platform alone. There's plenty of people that will more appeal to you and who you have and your style, as opposed to what I have. And I listen to what other folks say. As an example, Leslie Flowers is always so fantastic on her shows to call out other people and give a little bit more info on them, which I always have just such deep respect for and appreciation that she also, like Harvey, does it just out of the kindness of her heart. Um, but hearing her when she talks about the awesome journey, is she's like, I just encourage you all to go watch it because it's so unique to what else is on this platform. And hearing that makes you kind of go, but that's why it works, because it's not like everything else. And the core of it is because I needed something to help me. I mean, that's how I found, how you and I talked about live streaming to begin with, is I was looking for something that was more fulfilling to my purpose, and was just feeling, after being laid off in 2020, then dealing with some bad business folks, I was just feeling super discouraged and was looking for something different that would help me show up, and but also be around people that were not like-minded in the sense that think like me, because I don't want to be around people that think exactly like me. I want to be around people that think differently to expand me, but morally and ethically, all the things that I think we look at for the core that could kind of help me reshape what my future was going to look like, because I was still feeling very unsure from a business perspective what it was going to look like going forward. And 2020 specifically made me realize like how much I was confined and defined by my career, um, which was enlightening, because it's like I am not my career. I'm so much more than the corporate executive. And on my headline now, I do have that at the beginning, and it does get people's attention now, is recovered corporate executive, because you don't realize kind of how programmed you get into what you have to do. I was still always myself in my position, but you still had to do things in corporate America that were that to follow the standard, the expectation, whatever it is. And that's a whole different show. But being able to come on something like this platform and rediscover, I think, who you are and supporting yourself to be, and that's what I needed to do, is to get out of the corporate, A plus B equals C, and all I's dotted, all T's crossed, and get back into being creative and being out there and embracing my weird, for lack of a better term. And weird is probably not a good word to use right now, but I don't really care. So I think that's part of it, is learning how to support ourselves and finding who we are. And that is kind of maybe a crazy thing to think that that's what a live stream and or podcasting, however people want to do it. But I hear a lot of people telling those stories about how their shows have not only enriched them by having legends on, like a Bob Berg, or some military heroes that are incredible, but it's what we learn from all of them and how we feel. And I think, to bring it back into live streaming, the gift that you and I get every single day, or every time we do a show, is the ability to support the guest. And having guests on, and there have been many that I have been so blessed and honored to have on, but afterwards just being like, wow, I can't believe that conversation went there, or how emotional it made me, or all the things. And it's because when people feel safe and supported in a conversation, that's a gift and a privilege that people trust to share that vulnerability of themselves, not just with an audience, but with you, because people forget that it's live, it's evergreen, it's all the things. So that part of it, I look at as such a blessing and such a gift, honor, privilege, all the things. What are your thoughts on this one?
Wow, you gave me 4 different things to think about, and a couple things is coming from a situation of abundance and not scarcity. Usually people compete because they think there's not enough for 2 or 3 or more. It's like there's one sandwich, there's 2 appetites, who's going to get it? And really, if you're from a place of abundance, your natural instinct is, here, you take it. Instead of let's split it, would be the typical thing, right? And if there's more sandwiches, if you're not too far from one, you feel okay about letting it go. If you feel like you're never going to get another sandwich and it may be forever, you come across as being a little bit too overreachy. The other element that you made a quality point of is being defined by what you do and who you do it with, not who you truly are. And your voice starts out natural and pure and gets stifled over time. It gets minimized, but they pay you, and they're actually paying you to make yourself less you, and for them. And then you're building dependency without a lot of support, and you're going the wrong way. And I guarantee you, Kelly, if you could time travel back to situations the way you are now, it would be a whole different situation.
Oh, yes.
Right? Because, and I've always made that point. at a certain point you become unemployable
Yeah.
because you're just not going to deal with certain things. You're not going to accept certain things because you know it's truly not right. It's not because it's not comfortable. It's not
Mhm.
because I need to learn this. It's because I've learned enough to know this isn't right and to call truth out
Yes.
and being able, and without disrespect, but just say no, and so many people are afraid of that word because it creates a situation, but that situation may be valid based on, well, it's never going to work out here, and it's only going to get worse. So the sooner I'm out of here, the better.
Hmm.
Or when people know that you've had enough of enough, and you put your foot down in a way, in a respectful way, they may say, well, this person has spoken up and it's valid. We're going to adjust to it. And maybe because we adjust to Kelly, we should adjust to a lot of other people. We always talk about those dumb meetings that go forever.
Oh God.
You know, if everybody at that meeting would say, this is so, in a respectful way, this is not efficient. I think we should do it this way. Well, the leader is going to look at the whole group and
Yeah.
say, well, either I change or they're going to keep coming, but they're also going to be relating that it's not effective for any of us. And people need to know what they don't know. The challenge with leadership and high management is they take it as an entitlement. They didn't
Mm.
earn it anymore. They have it. And as they have it, they want to use it. And that's not to say there aren't a lot of really quality leaders and individuals out there who understand the value of individuality, of being in a safe situation. And I think there's always that ability to redefine yourself. It
Yeah.
might have worked, it might have been good, but it's not doing it anymore. And you say it's
Mhm.
time to move to another area. The question is, on your own, it's hard. But if you can join a group, if you can be part of a program, and I think people just want to be heard and want to be appreciated. And,
Yeah.
a show like this, everybody's great at something. It may not have a market value, but someone might be the greatest at making omelets, right? I mean, and that's their skill level, and they love making omelets. Well, in a billion people, there probably are a lot of breakfast oriented people, cooking people.
Sounds
And
really good right now too.
oh, I know, I shouldn't say that it's around breakfast time. But the fun of it is the fun of people,
Yeah.
loving people, caring for people. One thing about the group we have, the 7 people, is as individuals, just fantastic people. I mean, and it comes naturally. And it's not something you want to build a mass group out of because the
No.
person who doesn't align, in other words, it's like when you build a house of cards, the next card you put on could make all the other cards fall or could support future cards. So it's like the next combination of the lock that you're trying to add to it to keep everything going. And you don't need a lot if you work well with what you have and who you have, right? Just by working with me, working with Christy, has given you the bandwidth to include a lot of guests. And what happens with the guests is they become, it goes from a stranger to a guest. It goes from a guest to a friend,
Yes.
from a friend to a family member. And
Yeah.
I know people you have on your show, you feel like they are family, whether it's Clint,
Yeah.
the general, and they look at you that way, but it's even better because they're looking up to you at times. They're looking for you to, what do I do next? How do I handle this? Because, we even talk about ageism.
Oh
Technically,
yeah.
I'm only a 2-year-old on live streaming.
Yeah.
Right? I've been doing it for 2 years. That's as old as I am on live streaming. And I've got friends who are just babies in a sense getting started. But when you've been somewhere a couple times, you know what it can do. You know what's in front of a person if they have the tenacity, perseverance, commitment, and trust that if I can't do it, could we do it? And if we can't do it, could we find somebody who could help us do it?
That's
And
right.
I think that's important. With that said, we got Omar here. Don't want
Omar.
to Omar. Omar is just one of the nicest
Yes.
gentlemen we know on LinkedIn. And you would never know that if you didn't give yourself a chance to get to know that. I've had Omar on many times. I've been on Omar's show. What was interesting last weekend, Omar reached out to me and said, I'm having a singing competition. And as soon as I saw that, I'm not a singer, you know. I looked at the next line, would love to have
Please
you
do it.
as a judge. And I said, well, I can judge singing, and everybody can sing. Not everybody can sing to the point of enjoyment for others. But one thing I learned about being in a group that, like a choir or a larger group, if you go to church and people really get into it, is your voice does add value because it's part of the bigger voice. If
Mm-hmm.
one person was stand on the stage and sing, that would be challenging, not because I think of insecurity, which I definitely think would be part of, but because of inexperience. And I think what we do here, I've got someone coming on the show Monday, and it's like, well, I'm already nervous. And that's why even with Kelly, with Harvey, it was the next day. It's like, no time to think, we're going to do it, right? Because if you have enough time to think, you'll think your way out of it, or you
Yes.
worry too much. And, the response to that person was, I would never take you on a boat ride and let you drown. So
Great.
if I'm going to have you on the show, I'm going to make sure you're safe and secure. And if all you do is get on and grin and that's it, you did enough, right? You
Yep. I
participated,
love that.
right? And eventually you'll say, hey, this isn't as hard as and the beauty of learning what used to be in your mind difficult turned out to be easy is to figure out what else was kind of difficult that I was afraid to do. And as you
Yeah.
start building that habit, all of a
Yes.
sudden these barriers that you put up,
Yep.
these I'm not good enough, or who would
Yes.
care about me, and that's a reflection on who didn't care about you, not who could care about you. And just making yourself honest. That's why I tell people no one cares what you do until they figure out who you are. Who is this
That's right.
person, right? And it's not because of what you did, but hey, I love this and I enjoy this, and here's my childhood. I know Harvey's first story was going into the ocean
Yeah.
looking for someone's wedding ring.
Yep.
And these stories stay with you because they have value for you.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly's stories, and I can go on and on. So when people come on the show, they shared their life with you. They shared the
Yeah.
best, sometimes maybe not so good, but it's like, wow, I just learned something that I didn't have to experience. And thank you very much for sharing that, not only because you helped the audience, but you helped me. And
Yeah.
I think we always talk about counting our blessings. We always talk about gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Waking up every day is a blessing. It
Amen.
really is. It's not something anybody should take for granted, and I don't. And if ever, they say, live every day like it's your last, because one day it will be. And why not treat everybody like you'll never see them again?
Yeah.
And why not show how much it matters and not share your little foibles and little in situations that are uncomfortable? We come back to Omar, my LinkedIn family, and LinkedIn doesn't, I think, identify that early enough for people when they come on, because typically it's a race for numbers,
Yeah.
connections. How many connections can I make? How many people will like my post? How many people will comment? How many? How many? How many?
Mm-hmm.
How good? How good? How good? And if you're going to have a board of directors or an advisory board, you probably have 6 to 8 maybe, and that would be enough. Well, once you get to 6 or 8 that you're working with, and then you can somehow collaborate, coordinate, synchronize, then it's there. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what we're willing to do, is open up our communities to anybody who is willing to be a good citizen, help each other. And, there's no limit to what people together can do when it's done well and it's done with the proper respect. Because in this crazy world, Peace is
Huh.
so hard to find.
Yeah.
Stability, tranquility, things that have been like a hallmark of personal growth, which is the ability to think without static and chaos, the ability to be with people. And some people get too far with people when they should stay where it's comfortable for everyone.
Mm.
That's why I've never been political. I've never brought in any controversial
Smart.
element.
Smart.
Well, because all of a sudden it changes your feeling about something and somebody, even though nothing changed,
Yes.
right? So it's better leaving that off to the side. And you never know, you change today, maybe you'll change tomorrow. Why
Yeah.
put that into it? And I think it's doing what other people won't or can't do that really separates you from the crowd. And the crowd is an awful place to be,
Yeah.
especially when it's like Kelly always brings up the pitch slap. If
Yeah.
you're
Oh,
in the crowd, if you're just the wall that the spaghetti keeps getting thrown at,
yes.
as opposed to someone who just is focused and just wants to have a good time with good attributes. So, Kelly, I know you have evolved so much. I was so gratified and proud of your continuing expansion into all kinds of new areas with new people. Uh, you're just you're just really somebody I have huge admiration and respect for. And what's also great about it is it's just beginning.
Yeah.
There's more. It's only going to get better. So, what are your thoughts? I know you've been able to help so many people, and with the messages you get and everything else.
Yeah. So many thoughts came up. One of one of them was about I have two stories I want to share. One of them is you saying about, being grateful for every morning that we wake up, because you're 100% right. We never know when it's our last. And we talk about gratitude all the time and being grateful for all the things. Well, my, my niece dog, her name is Maple. My sister-in-law is Canadian. Um, and this is actually an A mug. A, good to see you, A. But every time she sees you, Maple, it's like it's the first time and she loses her mind. And it's just the funniest thing. In the morning when she comes out of her kennel, she could not be more happy to see you. And there's something about that that's like, God, that's what we should all be doing. Like, how, look, I'm so lucky that I get to do another day on this side of the dirt. Like, how blessed and lucky am I? Um, and so that was just a fun little story. And the the other part I wanted to mention, as you were saying all those things, is I know you remember Kim Wheatley. She was on here she was on here as a guest a couple of times with me, and I think just with you, but was in the audience a lot and back in the beginning. And she was one of those people that was like, this is just what I needed. I don't know how I even came across the show. I don't know how I found it, but what you guys were talking about impacted my day. And I came back the next day because it was what I needed. I was, going through some stuff. And so here's the kicker. Her and I haven't heard from her in a bit, but we became friends. Like, I just adore her. And it was funny because the first time I had a Zoom call with her, she was like, "Oh my God, you're exactly like you are on the show." And which made me laugh because I'm like, girl, it's hard enough being me. I don't have time to try to be somebody else. And um, in any event, I hadn't heard from her in a while. And right before I came to San Diego, actually, I had gotten a text message one morning and she was like, "Hey, Kelly, it's Kim. Um, I just landed at Sky Harbor Airport." And she's like, "Where are you in the Phoenix area?" And I was like, "I'm in Scottsdale." And she's like, "Well, I'm staying in Scottsdale. Are you anywhere near this hotel?" Long and short, I ended up having a client had to move a meeting that afternoon. So I just so happened to have a couple hours open up. And she's like, "I have this break before I have to go to the event that she was here for a weekend." So we were able to meet in person and have lunch. But there was something about it was so special because you and I have received messages from people, emails saying how, this changed my life, or some message how it really impacted me. Seeing someone in person and being able to hug them, connect with them, even though it's like girl, I felt this way even when we only saw each other on a screen. And um, but just having her want to take the time to say, I just wanted you to know in person, like how much that what I heard you say, you and Don, over the months that I was tuning in, really helped me get through some stuff. And those are the things we all forget about, is somebody's listening on the periphery that may never even say a word. Um, and some may. But those are the things I think, supporting kindness and love to one another, because people are going through stuff. And I do think it is our, I don't want to say job, but I think it's just the right thing to do, is to try to be kind and remember that everybody's got a journey, and it's not the same as yours. And we are, I think too many people do judge a book by their cover. Of course, that's an awful cliche, but it's a fact. Me learning with even the guests that I have on the Awesome Journey, talking about, their drug addiction and how they got sober and how they fell off the wagon so many times, but finally did get sober. And now we're changing the lives of other people who struggle with addiction and are helping them find safety in homes and saving people from human trafficking and all of these things. And you kind of go, but this guy used to be on the street and homeless and strung out, and somebody that a lot of people would walk by and go, wow, what a waste. And it's like, you know what? He didn't choose to be there, or she, whoever it is that you're seeing. They didn't go, I can't wait to grow up and be a drug addict and be homeless, like, because that's my goal in life. Um, they have had a hard path, and something has gone awry. And I tend to bring this story up because he would never have lived to do all the incredible work that he does now, truly saving lives, in multiple aspects and avenues, whether it is from drugs, alcohol, trafficking, you name it. And it's because he was sitting on a curb one day planning his suicide, and a stranger walked by him and smiled at him. And he just thought, in that moment of that brief exchange, he was like, wow, somebody, maybe I'm not worthless. I'll wait till tomorrow before I take my life. And that life would have been extinguished if it weren't for a smile. Like, she didn't even say anything to him. And so that just goes back to supporting one another and smiling at someone. And we've talked about that before too. You and I are both those people that when we're walking, we'll say hi to people. And the ones that want to look away from me, like, make me want to say it more. Or smile at the person in the grocery store that you can tell and you can feel the energy that something's going off in their life or in the moment, whatever the situation. Because I've been that person. I was that person that just needed, that couldn't smile at someone because was feeling so awful in this world. And knowing that I had people smile at me, that used to be a checklist from something for me to get up in the morning, get dressed, go out and smile at someone. Because generally when you smile at someone, they can't help but smile back. And you getting that positive energy helps. So I just encourage everyone to go support one another and go out and smile at someone, because you never, ever know how majorly impactful that one little thing can be, or doing a live stream and what you're saying and how that ripple effect will be on others. Because leaving a conversation feeling better, it shows in every person that you're going to interact with the rest of the day. So I think I went off that.
No, I think it's great. I mean, every time you talk, I anticipate a positive response from myself. And, I was going to relate to that story before you mentioned, because it came to mind about that smile saving that individual.
Yes.
And knowing that you have that power, that ability, without even knowing it, that could turn people's lives around. Because, and we're kind of set up because we do have a show. People come here because of curiosity or interest, so they already took some initiative. Is how do we present ourselves in a way that makes people more comfortable listening, and then hopefully comfortable enough to comment, and then comfortable enough to guest, and comfortable enough to grow and maybe have their own show. And we're kind of gatekeepers in a lot of ways and are looking for people who deserve it. There's so many people, and the people who are kind of down and out don't have to be. And the people who are up and away could end up down and out the next day. So you're never,
So true.
the game keeps changing, the rules keep changing, the characters keep changing. You need to stay ahead of it. But it's not through aggression. Too many people get in situations and they plow faster, harder towards something instead of allowing it to come to them.
Yeah.
Talk about dogs. Every dog I had, if you ran after them, they ran further. Every time I ran away from them, they ran towards me. And you had to have the trust to see your dog running down the street, knowing that if you reach out to it somehow and show it a better way. And a lot of times people and dogs just want to play. And at a certain point, it becomes important to them. And, I'm learning all the time, but what I'm learning is to be a better person because of that. Because if you want to do better, you need to be better.
Yes, amen.
Right? So the more you can learn, but the more you can learn with others, not just from others. I never wanted to be the guy on the stage talking to everybody, talking them down, when I could crawl back to the stage, to the floor with everybody. By the way, we've got Dennis here. Dennis, another guy. We are all getting better when we listen and learn from your show. And Dennis has been part of the show for about 1.5 years. And on the show, just a great guy, just because of his support, his commitment, and they say 90% of success is showing up. If you show up every day, any game you want to play baseball, show up. Eventually you'll get a chance. Eventually through enough chances, you'll get better. And eventually you'll be right there with everybody else. But I think that's so important is nobody typically got to where they are overnight. Don't expect to get away from it every night, but just to say, I'm making incremental progress. I'm doing something to, like what Kelly says, everybody could take a walk, hopefully, who's mobile. Everybody who takes a walk could look to greet people. You could actually walk towards people in anticipation of greeting them. And you can, I saw this sales strategy, which is pretty simple, is, you buy a bag of pinto beans with 100 beans in it. And every time you make a sales presentation, you take one bean from one pocket and put another. And when your pocket's empty on the left, you just made 100 presentations. And I think it's the same thing as, can I make 50 people smile today? Something I can do. And, the beauty of what me and Kelly and our group and a lot of other people are doing is they invest in people. They go out of their way and say, I'll invest in a kind word. I'll invest with 15 minutes. I'll invest with this. And, it surprises you because the cover of the book doesn't really tell you what's inside of it. And that works both ways. You see somebody's profile, someone's bio, and you say, wow. And you get to meet them. They're the worst person in the world. And you get to meet somebody else who's plain, simple, humble, and they're so endearing. They're so amazing. And they don't even know how amazing they are. But just like being a talent scout, there's glimmers of greatness and hope that are, come out of people if you're really focused on who they are. And they can help you in ways because everybody lives a 24-hour day. Everybody's life has been influences by experiences and situations and people. And everybody knows people you don't. Everybody's gone through really embarrassing situations, high achievement and recognition situations. But what people really, I think, appreciate is consistency. Nobody wants to be on top today, on the bottom tomorrow, and then climb back on top. Everybody like to have an even upward to the right kind of flow to it, but in a way that you enjoy every step of the journey, and you can pause. You can say, I found myself in a really great place. And I love your story about Kim, and I remember Kim so well. And she
Yeah.
had just a beautiful personality. She
So
just
sweet.
shined in so many ways. And, when we talk about Leslie Flowers, and I had the good fortune of doing about 50 shows with her, and we're still really good friends. And she reached out and says, I might have a conference in Boulder, which is about 40 miles from Denver. And would you be open to meeting for coffee or something? And I said, I'd love to, because it's kind of
Love
like
it.
you see people, but meeting them, and I've heard this from everybody. Somebody's in Baltimore and someone realized that. Some other people, as soon as they travel, they find out who do they know in that city.
Yeah.
So if you're going to Tokyo and you happen to have a connection, and it's just cool that these people are real. These people live. They're not just avatars or something, a meme on a screen. And it just brings a whole new way of living and a whole new way of expanding your reach and your family in ways that the physical world just doesn't allow it to, because you're not out there. When you're out there in the physical world, typically everybody's busy, right? You want to go to Starbucks
Yeah.
and sit down at every table with every person and say, hey, I'd like to introduce myself, and who are you?
But you
Because
could.
you could, but they typically don't have the time. And
Yeah.
society just makes everybody afraid of somebody who approaches them,
Oh, yeah.
right? And it's really an internal thing. And we talk about support. It's so much easier when you think something and then someone throws it back at you and sincerely says, you really don't have the problem you think. You
Mm-hmm.
are just so good in so many ways. And the things you're talking about, I'm dealing with too.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has to deal with that. So I think that the belief in the goodness of people, the belief that tomorrow could be and should be a better day for you. And there are people, and I'm sure, speaking for me and Kelly, that our heart goes out for people who suffer. It's just, you wish you could do more. And sometimes, my wife is like, she can't go by anybody without giving them something,
Aw,
whatever it is.
love that.
She'll buy cookies even though she won't eat them. She'll give people gifts and things just for the benefit. And I think it isn't just serving others, it serves yourself when you do good, when you feel that blessing of a day gave you an opportunity to make someone else's day better. And I
Yes.
think that's huge. Well, Dennis has some more comments. Most of us have too much stuff to go through. Less is still more.
Yes. Amen.
It's so important to unclutter, to really, find
Yes.
essence of what you are and what you want and just focus on it. Another one, agree a smile can go a mile, good to share and care with others. Every little thing means something big, possibly to somebody, and why not give it a run? Agree, learn from others' mistakes, and it helps us avoid making them ourselves. Agree, take our helpful journey one step at a time, and remember to chime in and rhyme with others. That's really beautiful.
I love it.
What it says to me and Kelly is whatever we said today allowed you to think what you just commented on, and collectively we supported each other to create a wonderful show. And the beauty of it is this show will be seen and heard forever as long as it's listed on YouTube. And we'll never get to thank a lot of these wonderful people who come after the show, but no, it could have made that difference, just like with that individual who was ready to give it up and someone smiled. And I think spreading the wealth creates more wealth. And you never know who comes back, just like a Kim or somebody else, and said,
Yes.
because of this was this. And I know there was someone who started me out on live streaming, that if they didn't bring me into it, I would never been able to bring other people.
That's
So
right.
everybody is resting on the shoulders of people who came before them. And hopefully we just get better at being better with more people. And if all you have to do is be a servant for goodness, that's a great position to find yourself in. Wow, it's an hour. You
I
know,
know, it's crazy.
it's like
So crazy.
it's never long. I never ever had a show like, oh, geez, I got 10 minutes to go. What are we going to talk about now? It's like,
So
can I
true.
throw comments in? Can everybody? And there's always someone who ignites a thought that they didn't have before that. It's like, oh man, I just thought of 3, 4 more things. So,
Yeah.
Kelly, always love the way you close. Can't thank you enough. You're just a gift that keeps on giving.
Oh, you're the sweetest. Always a pleasure. I'm glad it worked out, even though we had a little bit of a struggle. We supported one another and made it happen today. And Maple's quiet somewhere, so this is ending perfectly because I need to go see what the little stinker is up to. But it is always a pleasure, and yeah. So everyone, remember the small things. Go out and smile at someone because, as I always say, at the end is go out and shine so bright that others can't help but shine too, because it's best.
Yeah, and that is so beautiful because I've never been able to top that, which means it is at the top already. And can't wait to have Kelly back next Thursday and get together with everybody else. And I'll speak for both of us. We're always open to anybody who wants to have a short conversation
Yeah.
and love to continue to build together. So, Kelly, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Audience, thank you so much. And we'll hopefully talk again. Actually, on Monday, I've got a 4-person show. We've
Oh,
got Karl Dakin, we've got Bill Barkhouse, and we've got Irwin Jack. Uh,
nice.
and the word of the day is empathy, even though all these people are business people and in finance, but empathy was the word that came up. So I'm all for it. So again, make your day as good as it can. And if you can help somebody else along the